I was driving home from a New Year's Eve party with my girlfriend. We had a great time celebrating with our friends, and we were looking forward to spending the night together. We decided to take a shortcut through a forest road that was supposed to save us some time, but it turned out to be a big mistake. The road was dark and bumpy, with no streetlights or signs. The trees were blocking the moonlight and the stars. It felt like we were driving into a black hole. We had no idea where we were going or how long it would take. We tried to make the best of it. We turned on the radio and sang along to some songs. We joked about the creepy road and the possibility of encountering a ghost or a monster. We kissed and cuddled in the car. We tried to ignore the feeling of uneasiness that was growing in our stomachs, but we couldn't ignore the sound. It was a loud, piercing scream. It sounded like a woman in pain. It came from somewhere behind us. It made us jump in our seats. We looked at each other in shock. We wondered what it was and who it was. We wondered if we should stop and help or keep driving. We wondered if it was a prank or a trap. We decided to keep driving. We thought it was too risky to stop. We thought it might be a trap set by some psychos or robbers. We thought it might be a prank played by some kids or drunkards. We thought it was none of our business. We thought we were safe, but we were wrong. The scream followed us. It got louder and louder. It got closer and closer. It sounded like it was coming from the trunk of our car. We panicked. We realized we had picked up a hitchhiker who was not alive, a hitchhiker who was not human. We stopped the car and got out. We ran to the back and opened the trunk. We expected to see a corpse or a creature. We expected to see blood or guts. We expected to see horror. But we saw nothing. The trunk was empty. There was no sign of anyone or anything. There was no explanation for the scream. We were confused. We wondered if we had imagined it. We wondered if we had gone crazy. We wondered if it was a joke or a glitch. We decided to get back in the car and drive away. We thought it was over. But it was not. The scream started again. It was louder and angrier than before. It was coming from the front of the car. It was coming from the dashboard. We screamed too. We realized we had a passenger who was not visible, a passenger who was not friendly. We tried to get out of the car and run away, but it was too late. The doors were locked. The windows were sealed. The engine was revving. We were trapped. We heard a voice from the radio. It was a deep, raspy voice. It said, "Happy New Year. You're mine." It laughed maniacally. It sounded like it was enjoying our fear. It drove the car off the road. It drove the car into a tree. It drove the car into hell. We were doomed. We were his victims. It was a night much like this one, the moon a mere sliver in the sky as I drove down the old forest road. The darkness was thick, almost tangible, and the only sound was the gravel crunching beneath my tires. I remember thinking how the trees seemed to lean in, whispering secrets to one another that weren't meant for human ears. As I rounded a bend, the headlights caught something, or someone. A figure draped in tattered robes stood in the middle of the road. I slammed on the brakes, heart pounding, but as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. Just a trick of the light, I told myself. But then, the car went dead. No lights, no engine, nothing. The silence was suffocating. I reached for my phone, no signal. Of course, that's when I heard it. A soft tapping on the passenger window. Tap, tap, tap. With a breath I didn't know I was holding, I turned. There, pressed against the glass, was a face so grotesque, so twisted with malice, that a scream clawed its way up my throat. It was pale, eyes hollow, a grin too wide to be natural. Then it spoke, a voice like the hiss of leaves. "Why do you flee, dear driver? The night is young, and I have such stories to tell you." What happened next, I cannot say. I awoke to the dawn, the car running and the road empty. But sometimes when the night is dark and the wind whispers, I wonder, was it really just a story? Thank you for listening, and remember, on midnight drives, the journey is just as terrifying as the destination. Until next time, keep your eyes on the road and the shadows. As the first rays of dawn kissed the horizon, I found myself alone on that desolate road, the eerie encounter still fresh in my mind. The car, as if nothing had happened, hummed back to life, and I drove on, eager to leave the night behind. But the forest had other plans. The deeper I drove, the more the shadows seemed to dance, and an unsettling fog began to roll in, thick and unyielding. The road became a mere suggestion, and I strained to see through the oppressive white. Then, the whispers started, soft and insistent, seeping through the cracks of the car. They spoke of lost souls and ancient curses, of travelers who ventured too far and never returned. I tried to ignore them, but they grew louder, more demanding. A sudden chill swept through the car, and the temperature gauge plummeted. My breath turned to mist, and I could see my own reflection in the windshield, eyes wide with terror. It was then I realized the forest wasn't just around me. It was inside, with me. The whispers turned to wails, and the fog outside swirled violently. Shapes formed within it, human in form but ghastly in presence. They pressed against the windows, their hollow eyes fixed on me, their mouths open in silent screams. I don't know how long I drove through that nightmare, but when the fog finally lifted and the sun broke through, I was no longer in my car. I was standing at the edge of the forest, the road nowhere in sight. The car, my only sanctuary, was gone. In its place, a message etched into the earth. Welcome to the Midnight Drive. Your journey has just begun. And so, dear listeners, if you ever find yourself on an old forest road, beware the whispers, the fog, and the faces in the dark. For some journeys there is no end, and some stories are all too real. Stay safe, stay alert, and may your drives be nothing more than mundane. Until our next midnight encounter, good night. I felt a pang of anxiety as I realized I was alone and isolated on this highway. I wished I had taken a different route, or at least stopped at a motel for the night. But it was too late to turn back now. I had to keep driving until I reached my destination. Suddenly, I saw a flash of lightning in the sky, followed by a loud thunder. The rain started to pour down heavily, making it hard to see the road. I slowed down and turned on the windshield wipers, hoping to improve my visibility. I noticed that the highway was curving to the right, and there was a sign that said, "Bridge ahead." I approached the bridge, hoping to cross it quickly and safely, but as I got closer, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There was a car parked on the other side of the bridge, blocking the way. It looked like an old and rusty sedan with broken windows and flat tires. There was no sign of the driver or any passengers. I wondered what was going on. Was this a trap? A prank? A coincidence? I felt a surge of fear and curiosity. I decided to stop my car and check it out. Maybe there was someone in need of help, or maybe there was a logical explanation for this situation. I parked my car a few meters away from the bridge and got out. I grabbed a flashlight from the glove compartment and walked towards the bridge. As I reached the bridge, I saw that it was made of wood and metal and looked very old and unstable. It creaked and groaned under my weight, as if it was about to collapse. I shone my flashlight on the car, hoping to see some clues or details. But what I saw next made me scream in horror. There was a body in the driver's seat, covered in blood and wounds. It looked like a man, but I couldn't tell for sure. His face was mutilated beyond recognition, and his eyes were wide open and staring at me. He was holding a knife in his right hand and a note in his left hand. The note said, "Welcome to the Bridge of Death. You are the next victim. There is no escape. He is coming for you." I felt a chill run down my spine and a sense of dread fill my chest. Who was he? Who wrote this note? Who killed this man? And why? I wanted to run away, to get back to my car and drive away from this nightmare. But before I could move, I heard a loud and sinister laugh behind me. I turned around and saw a figure standing at the other end of the bridge. He was wearing a black hooded cloak and holding a large axe. He had a twisted smile on his face and a gleam in his eyes. He said, Hello, Rajesh. I've been waiting for you. I'm glad you decided to stop by. You see, I've been killing people on this highway for a long time, and you are my latest target. You have no idea how much fun this is, how much pleasure I get from watching you suffer, how much satisfaction I get from ending your life. You are about to find out. You are about to join the others. You are about to die. He raised his axe and started to walk towards me. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move or speak. I knew this was the end. I knew I was going to die. I wished I had never taken this road. I wished I had never seen this bridge. I wished I had never met this killer. I wished I had never been born. But then, something unexpected happened. I heard a loud siren behind me and saw flashing lights. It was a police car coming to my rescue. The killer stopped in his tracks and looked at the car with shock and anger. He realized he had been caught. He realized he had to run. He turned around and ran to the other side of the bridge. He jumped into his car and tried to start it, but it was too late. The police car had reached the bridge and blocked his way. The police officer got out of the car and pointed his gun at the killer. He shouted, "Freeze! Drop your weapon! You are under arrest!" The killer ignored him and tried to ram his car into the police car. But the police officer was faster and shot him in the chest. The killer's car crashed into the police car and exploded. The killer was dead. I felt a wave of relief and a surge of gratitude. I had survived. I had been saved. I looked at the police officer and saw that he was smiling. He walked towards me and said, "Are you okay? I'm glad I got here in time. I've been tracking this guy for months. He's been killing people on this highway for a long time, and you are his latest target. But not anymore. You are safe now." He reached out his hand and helped me up. He hugged me and said, "You are very lucky. You are the first survivor of the Bridge of Death. You are the one who stopped him. You are a hero." I smiled and thanked him. I felt a sense of joy and a sense of hope. I had survived. I had been saved. I had stopped the killer. I had escaped the Bridge of Death. I was alive.